All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Let the Journey Begin. I am your host, Jason Waller. I'm actually here alongside Alex Meschi today, baby. Hilary is MIA today, and you're filling the seat.
Yeah, I've got like 6 episodes in a row now. I'm gonna just pull a chair in here myself.
You're kind of like the new host, bro. It's like, which one is Hilary gonna be here or is Jason gonna be here? So, well, it's nice to have you back on another episode with us here. Obviously, enjoy doing the show with you. I will say that I am very, very ecstatic that I am finished filming for this season of The Hills. It is all wrapped, so it's been a journey, 14 months, not straight, but we've shot on and off for 14 months. It has been a trip. So I'm grateful that it's over. It's tested my mental boundaries. It's tested my sobriety. There's been a lot of different things that have come through. It's going to be a phenomenal season. I personally think it's one of the best seasons that's ever been done. But we'll leave it to the viewers to decide that. But I'm grateful, like I said, I'm grateful that it's over for right now. Time for a break. It's been good though.
Yeah, and that's going to be coming out sometime in May, I believe, middle of May.
It's going to be out May 12th. May 12th. It'll be here. It airs Wednesday, May 12th.
Yeah, so for those of you listening, watch Jason, and a little hint, he talked about mental boundaries. You may also see some physical boundaries, but we'll leave that for the show to show or not show.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what our boy Jason does.
Yeah, man. So, Alex, any updates, though? You got some stuff for us for the foundation and things that we have coming up. I know we got our golf tournament. We have an event that we're looking at doing in Texas.
Yeah, so we have our golf tournament that is being put on by Epic Journey. It is the Epic Golf Classic at Harris Creek on May 28th, benefiting the Red Songbird Foundation. We just got word over the weekend that Red Bull's going to bring out their Nomad armored off-road vehicle with some reps, handing out free product, showing out some...
Will they let me use it as a golf cart?
That's what I'm trying to get, or at least a ride in it, or like maybe set up a little monster truck derby in the parking lot at Harris and run over a couple Mercedes or something.
A couple golf carts, Okay. Okay.
We got to raise the stakes, man.
All right. Well, it's going to be good. Yeah. So we'll keep you guys posted on all that stuff. Sounds like we got a lot of good things moving and shaking. Foundation is, we just closed out another scholarship. And again, as these tournaments and the events that we're doing are to raise more funds to help out those that are less fortunate, that need help, but don't have the means to get the help that they need. So, support us, check us out, redsongbird.org. And I'm going to kind of jump into this. We have a guest today that is, I met this gentleman only a couple weeks ago, heard nothing but amazing things about this guy through a very dear friend of mine, Matt. And after I connected with him, I was like, dude, this is like a long lost brother. This guy is we're like kindred spirits, man. And instantly, I feel like I've known him for 20 years. Like literally, maybe he feels completely different, so it may be awkward as all hell. But it was just one of those things, and it's just like it's a person that has got long-term sobriety. He's got a lot of success under his belt, and so just naturally, like you guys always hear me say, you're a product of your environment. It's so important to surround yourself with like-minded people and like-minded individuals. And I've been trying to shrink my circle. And it's funny, though, how God plays with your mind in mysterious ways, because then he threw somebody else in, and I'm like, dude, I really want to develop a relationship with this guy. And, I'm so grateful that you're here. So, Russ, thank you so much for joining us, bro.
Thank you so much, Jason, dude. I love that intro, bro. Yeah, it was great. Like the first time I walked in, and I had heard the same things, by the way, by our fellow friend, Matt. Matt, shout out to Matt. And I walk in, and Jason was like, come in for the hug. Come in. And I just, and that's how I am too. Like, I was just like, yes. Just come straight in, boom. And it was like, just from the gate, just authentic and just a flow. So bro, I second those feelings, man. And I appreciate that. And I'm really glad that we crossed paths for real.
Awesome, man. Well, we're grateful that you're here. And I know you're going to inspire a lot of people with your story today. So we're going to kind of just kick things off here real quick. We're going to jump into this, bud. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Wow. I think I wanted to be Michael Jordan first, and a basketball player, or maybe a Diego Maradona. No, first it was soccer. Then I fell in love with Jordan, and I had all the, just drove my parents crazy and had to work for my dad and all this stuff. He put me to work to get the new Jordans. And then what happened was, in came the music, and it was like, oh, I'm going to be a rapper at 11 or 12 years old. This is pre-Eminem too. And then, so it shifted, but it was always something in the terms of the entertainment world, sports. Yeah.
So that was, she went from soccer to basketball to even wanting to be a rapper all in the age of by 10, 11 years old.
Yeah, by 12, 12, I was writing raps, like full-blown writing raps. When I would walk to the bus station, my oldest brother put me on to Public Enemy and NWA. Basically, he heard me listening to a group. I don't want to diss them, but he was not fond of. So he was like, nah, we're not going to do that. And he put me onto this rap music, and I just fell in love with it right away. I don't know. I was always like a little bit of rebellious and had this kind of... let's push the envelope vibe in me. And so I think the music translated that with those feelings inside. And I'm one of those guys that when I discover something, I want to do it 100%. And so I think my first rap name was like Kid Casper and something. I always played the white angle.
Yeah.
and then I was like, okay, I got to make beats. And so I started leaving school, ditching school, and taking the train by myself down in the inner city of Philadelphia. And I discovered like these music equipment record stores, and I would get in these freestyle battles, and I would get beat up, and then I'd keep coming back, and the kids were like, yo, he's serious about this. I'm the only white kid in there and stuff. And that's really started my journey young.
So yeah. That was resilience there. So where did that path end up taking you? I mean, so I think it's fair to say, even though I've only known you a couple of weeks, I know that you didn't end up pursuing soccer to the fullest extremes. Right. I know you didn't pursue, becoming the next Jordan. So kind of tell us, just give us kind of where this all started to go. I mean, you got obviously extreme resilience and you ended up panning this out, but kind of walk us through the next motions that happened.
So yeah, I fell in love with music. It was something that my older brothers couldn't do better than me. And it was something that when I did it and I put the headphones on, and still to this day, the inner chatter and the outer world seemed to stop and to freeze. And all the focus went like a tunnel vision. And I didn't know it at a time. I didn't have words to articulate that, but I knew that there was peace and there was time seemed to freeze when I was doing it. So what happened was, once again, there was this, naivety of youth. I literally opened up Yellow Pages and I found a recording studio near me, and I booked a studio. And to make a long story short, it happened to be affiliated with a very famous record company, Rough House Records, that had like Lauryn Hill and the Fugees and Cypress Hill and all this stuff. And in comes this white kid with his little keyboards, and he's rapping about weed and girls at 14. And they were like, who is this kid? You know what I mean? So I was like, they took me under their wing young. And I think at that point, my parents were like, there's something here maybe. And so fast forward, I went to high school with Kobe Bryant, rest in paradise. And we had a mutual respect for each other because I really didn't ever bring up or care about his basketball. We just would talk about music and stuff. And so he was like, and so we started doing these little mixtapes actually through Matt. Matt was the one that was like, Matt and Kobe were very, very close. And so what happened was when Kobe went to the Lakers, every record company was like, yo, we'll give you a record deal. We're going to make you into Will Smith, whatever. And Kobe was like, I got a little bit of a different idea. And so myself and another guy from Philly, Anthony Bannister, who was friends with Kobe, we were assigned by Kobe to go around Philly and to find the best rappers in the city and to try to put together this conglomerate, like a Wu-Tang clan, to surround Kobe to give him some like street credibility.
No.
Long story short. Yes. And so then at 19, 18, I was signed. We were all signed as a group to Columbia Records. And that's what brought me out to California. And I was thrown into the record business. And so, and then from there, it was, I got to work with a lot of artists because every artist wanted to come in and see this new prodigy. So like everyone you could think of would walk in the studio. I had a very aggressive, proactive manager who would put me on the spot. I would play beats for them. And then, I ended up working with large artists, et cetera, and then the drugs and alcohol came.
I was going to say, dude, it sounds like a very fairy tale story. I was going to say, we're missing a big pink elephant in the room here.
Well, before we get the pink elephant, what was the name of the group, just out of curiosity?
It was called Chisol. It was an acronym. I don't even remember what the damn acronym means, but it was CHEIZAW, and it was Kobe and like 6 other rappers, and I was just the kid making beats, and I lived, I like basically lived in a closet, literally. It was like 5 of us in the Oakwood Apartments in Marina Del Rey. And
no way, bro.
yeah, man, yeah.
Casper didn't make it, bro.
Casper, no.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So going back into, and I mean, I appreciate the transparency there and just kind of all that. You've had a very exciting and successful career, but like you stated, there was a bout with drugs and alcohol. So I think the first things first is, I mean, when did you start to encounter, when was your first use, and then kind of when did it start to become an issue?
Yeah, this is, obviously, Jason, we've shared a lot of meetings and stuff. And so, what consistently comes back is this moment when I was like 14, and it was a bunch of us in this park in Philadelphia, and we're smoking weed. We got the little joints, got those knots in your stomach, the mischief. Oh, I'm doing something, And my friends sat there after they got high, and they just like acted, quote unquote, how a normal high person would act off weed. Like they were like just like laying back. We were listening to some music. I got up and ran down to the basketball court and started saying, I'm free. And often when I think back and I share in meetings, I ask myself and the audience or the meeting, free from what? And what I now am able to put words around is free from that self, that thing, that doubt, that am I separate? Are they really my friends? And what's the future going to be like? Well, regrets of the past, all that chatter and that noise, that dis-ease, it went away. It stopped. It froze, right? Because when the drugs work for me, when they work, you know what I mean? It's like, and they did in the beginning, and they worked differently for me. And I think for me, not to get preachy or whatever, but that's usually the telltale sign of an addict. Not so much how they do, but what it does for them. And what the drugs did for me, it was literally like, I always say that like when a normie smokes weed or takes a drug, goes, yeah, that was really cool. When an addict smokes weed or takes a drug or whatever, goes, oh, this is the solution for my life. This is what I've been missing. I got back. It's in my back pocket now permanently, And so that was the beginning of that for me. And so literally from that day on, 14 years old, and so there was, as an addict for me, I associate everything with it, with the drugs. That's where it really gets tricky. So like weed then became, and alcohol became a solution to things. So I'll give you an example. Let's go make a track. No, better yet, let's go make a track and let's smoke and drink first. We have to write an English paper. Yeah, or we could smoke the weed and drink and then write the English. Let's go send out mail to the mailbox. It's like everything was associated. That's just how my addict brain worked. And then it was just like, it just increased. And I think you guys, I'll get more into it. But yeah, that was the beginning of it.
I got a question for you. So it seems like 14 is the age that you've referenced a couple times now. And it sounds to me like weed was kind of your gateway or what opened things up for you. What effect did your parents have, if any, on your addiction, would you say? Because based on what you said before is that your parents heard what you were producing. They said that, you have some potential here. So if you're rapping about weed and stuff, I mean, if I were a parent and Jason, you're a dad, if Delilah's rapping about weed at 14, to me, that would cause some alarm, and I don't know if I would necessarily co-sign my kid doing that, whether he has potential or not. I'd be like, hey, you either need to clean it up or you're not doing it.
My dad, shout out to my dad, love him so much. My mom, okay, so I was the youngest. I am the youngest. My brothers wore them out. By the time I came along, it was like, and so my mom, I love her to death. She basically was like, he's out of control and stepped away with love. She couldn't handle it. My dad and I fought. My dad would, chase me down the block, man. Like I feared my dad, I probably feared him up until like last year. He's like 72. And, Dad, I still fear you. I fear you. I love you. Anyway, But yeah, I think there was like a duality going where they were like, yes, he's talking about these drugs and they would catch me and they would know I was stoned and everything. But then there was like, he's home in his room for hours making this music. They were not happy about it, but I think they thought it was just a phase that was going to kind of fade out, like my middle brother. And I didn't really start getting into hardcore drugs, quote unquote, until my first year at college. I was actually always against, quote unquote, against. Like I spoke, I just do weed and alcohol. Those guys that do the blow and all that. I had that self-righteous judgment and stuff until I got into college, and that's the first year. And that's when things really started to shift down in Florida.
What were you trying to, though? You hit something really that I relate to personally at a young age. And I understand that, we just talked about it, about like that, that's just the relief. That is my solution. What separates us from a normie versus an addict. But do you mind sharing just maybe some of the feelings that you had when you were young was it insecurities?
Yeah.
Was it self-doubt? What were some of those things that you felt before ever picking up a drink or a drug that you were going through?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like, this is why I like relate to you, bro. And I feel such a connection because it's like, I think people would they look at us and see, and we walk with some authentic confidence and swagger, and we've achieved some things, and there's, we're mighty handsome, but there was this angst. There's, this thing where it's like, it's this guy, it's this guy, Harry Tebow, and I reference him a lot. He talks about the king baby. The majesty, the baby. So this conflict that was in me, so it's like I was a very popular kid. I was definitely like the best on my soccer team. But if I scored 2 goals, I literally had an inability to celebrate it and to connect with it. Why didn't I score 3? Why didn't I score 4? And my brothers were excellent at what they did. My middle brother was like all-American soccer, and my oldest was like, just brilliant mentally. And my dad was like a successful litigator and all this stuff. So, and I was the youngest by 7 and 9 years. So, and I'm not blaming them. I love them completely. This was on me, but I had this perception where it was like, for Russell, and I'm speaking in third person, little Russell, to even have a point or to get heard, I felt like I had to like really prove and overcompensate and be. So I perceived the world as this big competition, like guys were a threat, like everything was about conquering, and that just put there was this pressure, bro, tons of pressure. And I couldn't shake this pressure. And so the world became a dangerous place to me. People became dangerous, and like, for example, before recovery would have happened, the disease would have, if I would have walked in and seen Jason and he would have tried to, come up and give me a hug, my disease would have been like, well, what does he want from me? You understand? It was like, it would have computed reality differently. And so that was the world that I lived in. And so the drugs were like a solution that did 2 things. Either they changed it to where I was like, dude, you're my best friend. I love this. Or I just didn't give a crap anymore. And I numbed out. And yeah.
Yeah, so it was almost a form of, there was a lot of self-doubt, as a young person. So I appreciate that, dude. So fast forwarding then into the hard drugs. This obviously, we all know this is primary, chronic, and progressive. By college, now you're starting to engage in hard stuff. Was there an inkling that, a moment where it was like the gears really shifted? And what was that progressive point for you?
Yeah, so basically I go down to Central Florida with my best friend David. It's 3 of us. Actually, Matt went there too. We just wanted to get away from the East Coast. This was like I was waiting on the Kobe Bryant, the deal to close. So I'm down basically for about 9 months down in this place, UCF. And what happened was these girls were from Boca Raton that were getting straight A's were doing ecstasy and blow in front of me. And it desensitized. I said, wait a second. Okay, they're doing this stuff. I'm not blaming them, but it shifted. And I had this moment where I was like, oh, and I believe the disease kind of crept in and rationalized. And I was like, okay. And so I tried it. I tried ecstasy for the first time. And I literally told this girl I loved her. And I probably meant it in the moment. And first time I met her ever. Yeah. And
Good stuff.
I literally, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I just remember thinking like, once again, like, oh, this is how I want to feel. I feel free. I feel that love. And so from that moment, man, once I took that ecstasy, then what happened came this stuff called GHB, because I would go really high on the ecstasy. I'm naturally like a passionate person, enthused, and I'm really grateful for those qualities. But it took me to another level. But at the same time, the come down was just gnarly. So then I was introduced to this stuff to help me, quote unquote. I hope I'm not teaching anyone how to use drugs here or whatever. And so this GHB, and it looks like water. So once again, the addict in me was like, boom, this is it. I can carry around water bottles. This is my solution. Because I used to wake up in the mornings, even in many years of sobriety, I want to share transparently, the mornings were always the toughest for me. I'd wake up kind of with an existential feel. What's the point? You know, a loud head, etc. The mornings have always been that moment for me. And so when I think back on my use, the first thing I did was take a sip of that bottle, the GHB, and it turned all of my defiance and I don't want to do that. The apathy is the word I use, to yes, Russell, you want to go hike the Grand Canyon? Yes, I'm in. I'm down.
Yes, dude, 100%.
Man, that's crazy, because my experience with GHB, one capful and I was blacked out. And
Right.
it was, I mean, I was in Vegas at a bar and I got a spiked drink and ended up doing a toxicology report at the urgent care of the hospital. I forget where my girlfriend at the time had taken me, but I got spiked with GHB. And literally they said it was about probably a capful.
Yeah, bro, it's because you don't have a tolerance, man. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So obviously this whole thing gets to a place, dude, that it's obviously it takes you down this path, and I can totally relate to those mornings and that morning feeling. I mean, dude, the worst, and just how, you know, your life fully becomes, you know, your life becomes a 24/7 commitment to your addiction. And what was the point though for you? What was the moment of clarity that you had? What was that turning point that really took you from, you know, using, abusing, and thinking that you're living your fullest life to the point where you're like, I can't do it anymore and I have to change my life?
I remember there was a moment where I was about 19 and I would pathetically try to hide gallons of GHB from my girlfriend at the time under our sink in the bathroom. And I would go into the bathroom and I would turn the water on and doing what we do. And I remember looking in the mirror and something said, this drug is doing you. You've lost control over it. And I knew there was truth to that. Like any good addict, I then, pushed it down and lived in the denial. And then what happened was, though, pretty quickly, once I started to up the ante and I started to get into uppers and speed and all that stuff, I went down fast, quickly, and I'm so grateful for that. And I lost weight. I was driving with binoculars in my car. I became paranoid. I was hanging with people that I know had no business. I want to share completely bluntly. This is actually a funny story. Like I was convinced that the cops were going to kick in my little apartment. And trust me, I was not a drug dealer. No cops were coming to look for me. But in my head, the psychosis was real. So I went to Ralph's and I got a big bucket. I poured it with Clorox and ammonia and all this stuff. And the thought was that I would put it next to the couch, and I would because I was sleeping on the couch. I was literally afraid to sleep in my bed because I would see these lights on the mirror and stuff. Anyway, speed is a gnarly drug. And so I would put all the drugs on the coffee table next to the couch with the idea that if they kicked in the door, I would just go, boop, and I would push the drugs would fall into the bucket. It would go. So the very few people that came to my apartment would be like, dude, why does it smell like ammonia in here and stuff? And so the last, what really happened, the bottom for me was, and I'll try to make this quick, was I went to Hazleton for 28 days, which was in Minnesota. And I did everything they said, and I started to look better and feel better. We start to get our mind back, and we're calling our friends. Hey, I'm doing good. I can't wait to see you and all this stuff. And Hazleton said, you need to pick an aftercare program. So I picked Promises. And this is back in the day. This is like 2002. And I picked Promises and because they would let me have a car. to go out because I had already 28 days clean. So I'm like, boom. So boom, man, the justification, the manipulation starts getting the plotting going in my head. And I go there and I get the car, I check in, and I'm like, I'm going to take my pass. And I go right back to the female friends of mine that I was hanging out with. And the first time I hang out with them, I'm like, I'm not going to do anything. I go back to rehab. Next day, I'm in promises. I go back. Second day, I'm like, all right, give me some of that. So now I'm tweaking. Now I'm up late. I go back to promises. I can't sleep. And I'm tweaking in the rehab, right? And I'm like, all paranoid and stuff. So I get out of the group, get back into that car. I'm like, I can't do this, yo. I leave. I go to the girls' houses. I said, look, we're going to go back to rehab at midnight and we're going to break me out of here. We're going to take all my clothes, da, da, da. We pull up. I cause a scene. I'm taking my shirt off. I'm asking people to come hang with me. Da, da, da. I'm not going to mention names and stuff. Cause a wreckage. I told this story to Jason. All right. I have my clothes in this rental car. I've caused a whole scene of promises. I go to their house. They go to bed. The party never ends for me. That's the thing with for me and my addiction. I just couldn't stand things that ended. I just had to keep pushing and keep going. I get involved with these, you could say they possibly gangbang, they look at, I shouldn't be hanging out with them. I'm in a car with them. We're going to go to this certain kind of club. It's like 3 a.m. Last thing I remember is I take one more cap and I wake up out of a blackout with handcuffs on my wrist. I look up like the good addict that I am. I go right into denial. It's a cop. I'm like, nope, you got the wrong guy. Promise, not me. He goes, yeah, look down. I look down. I'm naked from my pants down. So I just have a hoodie on and no pants, walking around naked. And so he's like, they're like, you're too strung out. We're not even going to arrest you. I end up in an ER, tubes down, the whole deal, catheters up me, and to make a long story short, that was the beginning where I was like, yo, this is really progressive. I just did 28 days. And in 4 days, I end up here. I'm in gowns. I don't even have clothes. Like the girls that I was hanging with, they were like, yo, you got to go. Yeah. For them to kick me out was like, and so I just, at that moment, I called back promises and I talked to this beautiful woman who's still alive, Suzanne, and I love her to death. And she was like, we will let you back in, but you got to come back in. And I came back in and I shared this. I was so afraid. I had all these catastrophic fears and self-doubt and they're going to hate me and blah, blah, blah. And they were eating lunch and they opened the door and they clapped and they came and gave me hugs. And that was my first spiritual experience and belief in recovery.
Wow, that's incredible. That is one heck of a story.
Dude, it's so good every single time. Well, dude, in an effort of time, just, it's, we could talk forever. I mean, you got so much knowledge and so much information around this. What is it that you do now, to maintain and sustain your sobriety?
So that's a great question. Thank you. I want to get into solutions. So I'm a big believer in that this is a spiritual solution for me. This is not something I get to think my way or figure out. So a morning routine is so, so crucial for me. Upon awakening, before I even open my eyes, because I believe that the disease wakes up before I do. So even if my eyes are still closed, it's starting to go and want to plan out the day and project and all this and that. And so I got to go right into prayer. I go right into prayer for 3 minutes, and I'm going to pray things that I'm grateful for. Everything from the things I take for granted. I always say, because I use a sleep mask to meditate, and I'll get to that. And it's interesting. Sometimes I'll keep the sleep mask on and I'll try to walk and brush my teeth and I can't. And I'm like, God, thank you so much for my eyes, my nose, my hands, my feet, my arms, everything that I take for granted. And I go into gratitude. And then after that, I read different devotionals. Jesus Calling. I read, one day at a time. I read this Course in Miracle, 4 to 5 of them. And I read them like my life depends upon it, because it does. I don't just read it and I'm thinking about something, next Thursday or whatever, like my mind wants to. So I consistently bring it back. Let's really read this. Then after that, I grab that sleep mask, I get up, I sit in this chair. meditation has an Eastern kind of attachment to it, and I respect that. But for me, it's a little different. For me, I sit there. It's prayer. It's contemplation. It's breathing. It's forgiveness. Whatever. But it's every day, 20 minutes, eyes closed, boom, and it allows me to heal. It's been the most profound thing probably in my life, to be honest. Just sitting for 20 minutes. Then after that, I hit the knees. I do this prayer that was taught to me, and I've made it my own. And then from there, honestly, I work with guys, spiritually advised guys, or just work with them brother to brother, however it is. I still go to several meetings a week. The Zooms meetings have been hard for me to connect. I'm an in-person person, and I found some open meetings. I host a meeting at my place that's gone on 300 weeks. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Yes, for 5 years. And it's a hybrid of Christianity, but it's non-denominational, and we get a speaker, and we do meditation. We have promise cards with scripture and then like affirmations and stuff. And I host that every Tuesday night. And then I'm also a huge believer in exercise. Like, I really think there's been times in my 19 years of sobriety where going to the gym and exercising has literally kept me sober. Literally in mornings where I was like in tears or really angry or resentful. I go there, and we have a saying, move a muscle, change a thought. And so the body, mind, spirit every day. And then just really trying to develop this relationship with, I use the term God or creator or father or whatever, but just something out there that truly loved me even when I wanted to have nothing to do with it, and I'm not shy about that. I feel this grace, and I feel my sole purpose here is really to try to deepen my connection with this spirit, and then just show up. And so I don't want to get on a grandstand here, but those are some things that I do daily to keep connected to this beautiful program.
No, that sounds awesome. And, as we're talking about solution, we're running out of time here on our show. But before we get to the end, for our listeners, what's an action for the day that you'd recommend, or something that you can, a little tidbit or morsel that if somebody were to just do this one thing right now after listening to this, it would make their life better? What would you suggest?
Go find someone that they trust, 100% trust, and get rigorously honest with them.
Ooh. The
secrets, man, the secrets inside keep us shameful, but please make sure it's someone that you trust, a close. I believe men need men to heal and women need women to heal. So it's like, I would go to a brother of mine and be like, look, I'm carrying around something, maybe I don't want advice. And I just say, listen, brother, can you just hear me out and just get it out? I got to get rigorously honest. Because I feel like addiction is really, really correlated with shame. And I think the secrets and all that nonsense that the head creates. And you know what I found? We all got this. It's all the same. You know what I mean? We've all done the same, it's almost humorous. And I love that moment where it's like, I can see this kid sharing something with me, and he doesn't want to look up. And I'm like, I did that. I got you. I just give him a big hug, Yeah. And so.
Yeah.
I love that.
You bring up a great point, the relatability. That's the main reason why we do this show, and we like to bring so many different walks of lives, including yourself, because yes, there is, I guarantee, not just one, not just two, there's probably 100 people that'll be, yep, that's my story too. Bits and pieces of it, for us to think that we're these special individuals, we are, but we have a lot more in common than we think.
Yeah.
Dude, I can't thank 100%. You enough, Russ. I mean, what a awesome story today. I appreciate you sharing with us. And would love to have you back sometime in the near future.
Dude, I would love that. Thank you guys so much, Jason. It's great to see you, man. Thanks for having me on. I'll see you at lunch this week, and thank you guys so much, really.
Russ, where can people find you?
Yeah, the Instagram is RWH official, and I really just dedicate it to try to just, body, mind, spirit, inspiration, and some stuff that I'm doing with the music and whatever. But that's where they could find me, and that's good for now. Yeah, man.
Dude, you're the man. That was great.
Yeah, that was
Thanks,
awesome.
man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.